up, y'all? We are back at it with probably one of the best shots I've had in a long time. It's definitely been a bit since I've gotten this kind of perfect 50% cookie moon. And also, just the sky is amazing. The atmospherics are really chill tonight, and so we're going to get some nice detail all across this Terminator. One of the coolest ones I've seen in a long time. Want to hop in here. It is 8:16 p.m. East Coast, edge of space. Time to talk about some moon stuff, hang out, listen to some music. Title of the show tonight is Modes and Modulation, the Symphony of Life. As I've talked about this idea of oscillation, frequency, the grand unified field, the connected universe, and how we actually perceive things as organisms inside cosmic shells of reality. And we also make these shells. So what is the variance between all these electrical shells is these certain types of frequencies and modulations, which everybody's got their own little signature. And these signatures multiply or multiplicative and additive, and you get all these different signatures throughout all our reality that defines what we see and sense. That's the nutshell of it. We'll talk more about it. Hopping into the chat, saying what's up to Genghis Khan, Australis, More Jello, Vorax, Smash-O Mash, what's going on? Nice to see ya. And Astrolabium Bear 816 in Michigan. Nice to see everybody. So, play a few tunes here while our friends shuffle in. Rocket ship's about to take off. So we got some Saturn tonight. I'm still not... I still don't think I can get Jupiter in the same session, but soon. And we'll see some Earth shine. We'll see some hexagonal craters. You can even see Serenity and Tranquility, Pentagon into Hexagon, Entropy, Negentropy. And then all the great craters across the Terminator line, like we were looking at yesterday, Theophilus and Cyrillus. Also tonight we'll probably have Ptolemaeus and a bunch of others. Terminator creeping into Mare Imbrium, Mare Fecunditatis, Mare Humorum, and then at the top, Hercules, Atlas, and a bunch of others. Cassini showing, Archimedes. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Ellie Wynn, what's going on? You're early tonight. That's awesome. Hope you're doing great. So, yeah, let's do it. I'm pretty chill today. I had what it seems like a long day. I woke up quite early today, cleaned the house, cleaned up all the debris outside, did laundry, cleaned the floors. So, but I have energy for this when it was this clear, and I got lots to say. Oh, what was I watching right before this? I was eating dinner. I was eating mac and cheese and some French fries. I was like, do you guys have any French fries? No, they had like Kitty's mac and cheese and French fries. So I got a Kitty's mac and cheese and French fries. So that was my dinner, and I was looking up, like, what is a contemporary debate or discussion about the moon in 2022? Like, are there people who are not, like, just YouTubers or agency people, like, doing panels or discussions about, like, what the moon missions are supposed to yield, some dates, some details, some technology stuff. So I did actually find one panel, which was about the sustainable moon future. And it was a bunch of different people. It was Spanish Space Agency, it was ESA, it was NASA, it was Lockheed Martin. And I'm going to find it and link it, but I think it's interesting, but it's also very, like, 10 years from now, 6 years from now, like 20 years from now. And this idea that really we might not actually have anything going on the moon for another 5-10 years, depending on what happens. Artemis is optimistic, but I don't know, it was just a weird panel. I was just listening to it, and you know how critical I am. I was trying to just keep an open mind and say, like, you know, all these people are, you know, trying to keep a job and go out there and say measured things to a public audience. And so at least there was something. I'll talk a little bit more about, like, what technologies they reference in it, but there were some answers that made sense. A lot of them were like, we're going to go do the science on the moon. And the guy's like, what science? And he's like, oh, well, you know, the craters on the moon, maybe water, ice, water. And I'm like, we're still doing this water thing about the moon? Like, it feels so primitive. But I don't know, maybe we are still in the dark ages. Vicky, what's going on? Hey, sweet Moonies. Hey, hey, hey. Hope you weathered the storm all right. I know you, I thought you were north of me, so I think it's probably okay, but I hope you're well. Awesome to see you in the chat. And thanks for checking on me, of course. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking about today. I was like, what is, they were talking about like moon bases, landing rovers on the moon, and then every so often they would kind of veer off into this idea that, well, if we do this, then we have to go to Mars. And I was thinking, I was like, why is there always this insistence on needing to go to Mars right after the moon? Isn't it enough to just establish a few rovers and like a living colony on the moon? I don't understand this idea. There's some weird discrepancy with it, like the fact that we have 50 rovers on the Martian surface, or like 50 missions that have launched to the Martian surface. At least 10 of them have worked. And Mars is about 60 million miles away and like indescribably more difficult than going to the moon. And yet somehow we don't actually have like a working rover on the moon sending back photos like Mars. Something really strange about it. I don't know for sure, but I do know that we can vibe with our moon. So I'm going to play some songs here while I get the shot set up. I feel like I could adjust it a bit more. Let's do some old jams first and then new jams later. yeah, just Vicky, take care. Smasho, take care. Just flipping over here to some Earthshine. Really looks like just the best shot I've had in a long time. That Terminator line is absolutely incredible. It's like weird fractal code. Let me know what you see in it. Wait for a few more people here, and then we'll do some zoomed in shots, talk about some geometry, talk about some consciousness. Drop me some questions in the chat. Make sure you hit that 4K and share the video if you'd like. Dreamfields. Hop in here and answer this telescope question. Say what's up, One Last Try 9. Welcome. Your One Last Try asked, I was looking at refractor scopes online today. What is your opinion of those? That's kind of a broad question. If you give me like a specific model and budget, I can give you, I think, a better answer. What I would say, generally speaking, it really kind of depends on the budget and then work backwards from there. I will recommend an amazing channel, actually. I've been wanting to do this, and it's a good reason to do it. Whoops. Edward Ting? Is that what it is? Nope. Ed Ting. Here we go. Oh. So this cat is amazing for telescopes. But how can I share it? Let's see. I'll just send you a video from the channel and then you can find it. Let's say it. There we go. Share. Copy. Alright, so check out this guy. And I bet you anything that you've been looking at online, he's got a review of, a really detailed one. Plus he's just an amazing cat all around. I found him only this year, but he's been doing this forever. So I'd recommend him very highly in terms of telescope reviews and just general astronomy. And yeah, just all around great guy, great reviews. So, but I would say if you had like something like a $1,200 budget for a scope, I would probably go with a Schmidt Cassegrain, something with a one-arm mount, or something with a something with a mobile interface or a digital interface, something, because you want to think about it from the perspective of like how will you use the scope? Will you use it for visual, just using an eyepiece, or would you want to connect it to a computer? I think you have to think about it from that perspective versus like just getting a scope based on a certain type of model of a scope. You know what I mean? I think Ed Ting can probably help with that, but I would probably recommend if you had something in that range, like $1,000 or even less than that, you can still get the Celestron Nexstar line, and that has a single fork arm mount with kind of the most sort of cutting edge stuff. It's not that cutting edge, you know, but it's at least in the middle of, it's got that quality to it, I gotta say. That's where I started. You can get the Nexstar 4 or the 6 SE or the 8 SE and then work your way up. And I think refractors are a little bit more difficult to work with. You kind of, to get a really nice refractor, you have to pay more. Schmidt Cassegrain has kind of gotten pretty reliably cheap, so you can get better optics for less money, if that makes sense. So just got our cookie moon here, took some shots. This is almost exactly 50%, it's like 49.9% right now. Rare that you get the combination of this type of clarity with the skies and also just people streaming the moon. So we're going to get some incredible sights already starting off hot. What I'd like to do is also just zoom in on this Terminator right now on the next song. Let me know if you have any requests. I can always talk about consciousness and plasma and all this stuff, but I don't know, maybe I'm just a little sleepy today after doing a ton of housework, so I'm going to vibe with y'all. Maybe I'll talk a little bit later, answer some questions, play some Electric Blood here, watch our beautiful moon.
I've been waiting on the street for days. Don't treat me like a fool. I've been sleeping on the streets for days. Don't treat me so cruel. I've been waiting on the porch for days. Don't treat me like you're cool. I've been waiting on the sea for years. I've been waiting for the secret all along. And you know what brings it? Don't you know what soul can sing? Singing about this dream so long for you. I've been dreaming about the song. So long for you, I've been singing about the song. So long for you, I've been dreaming about the one with you. I've been singing about this dream. So long for you, till I see the color of your eyes reflected in the picture I made for you.
Electric Blood. Cool. So I see Hurdy Gurdy Man, greetings from the UK. Cheers, mate. Nice to see you. Frederick Fogg says, Ed Ting is a very good writer and YouTuber. I concur. He's really awesome at piano too. He's just like such a great guy. Like you kind of want him to be your uncle somehow. But in terms of like just the sheer wealth of knowledge about scopes and his on-hands testing, I just don't think I've seen anyone that thorough and also cool at the same time. Really dig it. I'm glad I had the opportunity and remembered to share it because like I just been binging his videos. All right, before the next song, I just want to quickly point out Sea of Serenity, Posidonius, the pentagonal structure of the mare right here. Sea of Serenity, Mare Serenitatis. Then right here, Posidonius crater, almost like an elongated 2, 4, 6, 7, maybe a septagon here. This amazing bridge is the Apennine mountain range. Then you got the mouth, or the walkway, the causeway, the Rubicon between Sea of Serenity and Mare Imbrium. Cassini over here, Archimedes, Autolycus, Aristillus. This feature over here is quite interesting. It's one of those, what is it, the keystone structure that they talk about, Andrew Hall talks about. It's very fascinating, just like an imprint upon the regolith. But either way, fantastic shot here. Just want to point out this kind of shape, this pentagonal shape, which is, if I understand it correctly, the idea is pentagon is entropy, is chaos, and hexagon is firmness or centeredness or order. And so you got the pent into the hex. This kind of relates to the mudras, but it also relates to shapes in nature. The other thing to note here is Posidonius, which is on the corner, the exact vertex or edge of a large mare. And then you also have little craters on the rims of craters, but you also have large craters on the rims of mares. Really, really important stuff to note. Great visuals tonight on the Apennine mountain range, the Apennines. I see Douglas Perry in the chat, long time. Welcome. Electric moon in the electric universe, hell yeah. It's true, I mean, that at least for me, it makes sense that there's a fundamental order to the universe. There's also an amount of chaos in the universe. This equilibrium between the two is a conscious universe using electrical currents to self-organize and experience the whole in all these different ways. I'll talk a little bit more about this idea of the hollow moon or hollow planets in general, because if you caught some of my recent shows about stellar metamorphosis, and we might imagine that the moon is an old star, the core of an old star, maybe an old Earth even, right? But it doesn't mean, just because stars become Earths doesn't mean every star becomes an Earth, right? So maybe some stars just immediately became moons. But the idea of a moon is that it's desiccated, it's like bones. So we're looking at the carcass almost, or the skeleton of an old planet, an iron core. Same thing with Mercury. Potentially the same thing with Mars. So we are looking almost maybe at one of the oldest objects in the solar system, and the mainstream understanding of it is so kind of just all over the place, especially with this idea that the moon formed from accretion disk clumping together of matter, and the fact that the Earth and the moon are the same age, which also doesn't really make a lot of sense. There are a lot of factors about the moon's formation in the mainstream that really don't jive with what seems rational. Now, do I know better? Who knows, right? But the idea of stellar metamorphosis gives credence to this, gives a lot more to ponder and a lot more detail if you think about it, because something as complex as the moon makes more sense to have been baked at the center of a star. Same thing with an Earth, baked at the center of a star. This idea of clumping of matter in an accretion disk becoming a complex Earth or becoming a complex moon makes less sense. It's almost that simple at the premise of it. Copper Trops, what's up, OG? How you doing? How's the koi? How's the family? So yeah, a little bit about what we're looking at. We'll get back to the tunes here and then talk more about we'll go down the same line as we did yesterday. Tranquility and Chrysium, then Fecunditatis, Nectaris, and Gassendi. Just remember Ptolemaeus is such an interesting feature right here, right at the edge. It could have been anywhere, but instead it's at a vertex. So, what is the next one? What's up, Peter Battle, too? Welcome.
Rocket drift.
Oh, and Renegade. I see ya.
Left here with this painted for my own father. Just inseparable like motion and desire. All our scars have really faded. Don't be tired. Just believe. Soul is traveling. Just believe. Soul is traveling. Oh, past the pawns on the electric solar sphere. My indescriptions of your life was near. So far as I can see, I'm taunted by the dream ever since I can see. And in the beginning we couldn't fall, and told you what I mean beyond the real. As far as I can see, it's all of us catching a dream. Creature of the seas, losing magic, space and time, space and time, space and time, space, 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 just space. See, we're lost without you. 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 Come see. Alright, hopping in here. I talked about it the other night, one last, but I guess you weren't here, so I'll just do a quick recap on the lunar wave thing. So a few years ago, Crow 777 and some others started seeing these double wave fronts that moved across the surface of the moon at a certain angle. You'd see one and then you'd see another. It almost looked like a screen refresh of sorts. And the conspiracy circles glommed on and thought, oh, this is proof of a fake moon, holographic projection moon. But then others say, oh, it was nothing, it's actually airplane trails. So the turbulent trails that an airplane leaves when it crosses in front of the moon. So early on in the days of TakeBackSpace, I ended up catching at least 3. I know we probably caught about 5, but one of the videos ended up getting taken down for some reason. People started questioning whether it was real or not, or fake or not, or whether it was a camera effect. And what was interesting about it ultimately is I ended up catching a Jupiter wave, and so did an Irish astronomer a year before me. So seeing the wave fronts pass in front of Jupiter, really just an amazing visual. And then ultimately got a Saturn wave as well. So here I'm going to link you to the playlist because I'm always ready for this one. There's just a certain point where everybody's like, what the hell is it? Did you catch it? What's going on? And I think there's a logical reason for them. So this is the playlist of the lunar waves that I've captured. I think, yeah, damn, Jupiter wave number 2. I guess there's a second one. It's nuts.
I haven't seen anything since, I think this 2017 was the last one. But anyway, you check out the lunar wave and pulse on that one, and then I'll give you the link to this thing called Other Waves. And Other Waves is a compendium of what it says, other waves from different astronomers. Now, at the end of it, you'll see two videos that are very pertinent to what I think the lunar waves are. At the very end, you'll see this thing called shockwave, shadows, and ultra slow motion, and then underneath that, explaining lunar wave. And really what it ultimately looks like what the effect really looks like, is that it's kind of this visualization in the air or the ether of a shockwave after breaking the sound barrier. So a bullet, a supersonic jet, an explosion, and cameras basically looking at an effect like this as slow motion. Well, it's funny because we see it in real time, but like I guess in slow motion cameras you see it a lot more clearly in this Smarter Everyday video. You can see that there's this kind of double wavefront moving through. So I imagine that the lunar waves that we've caught in real time, all of these were captured live, by the way, and the reason I don't think it's a camera effect is because it's diagonal. It's always diagonal, and it moves with, you can move the telescope, and the wave is part of the sky. And then the reason I don't think it's airplane trails is because airplane trails we've captured a bunch of times, and it's very noticeably turbulent. And the difference between that and lunar waves or just sky waves like we see here, supersonic waves, is this very fine, like scanner type line that moves across, and then a second one. So anyway, that's what I think it is. I'm pretty sure it's probably some like either ballistic tests, supersonic aircraft, or something else of that nature. But it creates basically a sonic wave, a shock wave, and we see if you're looking at the moon, you can see the kind of pulse wave of a shock wave or broken sound barrier or supersonic craft moving across the surface. I think that's the most rational explanation for it. So, yeah. Kimmy, what's going on? Good to see you. Yeah, head down that rabbit hole, but just enjoy. Waleed, what's going on? Waleed Z. Hey, good to see you. So I was just talking a little bit about the lunar wave phenomenon, and the links above, let me know if you need them again. It is damn crispy tonight, I gotta say. Hurdy-gurdy man says, if the stars are conscious, one would expect such mega minds to exhibit more dynamic creations. I don't know what you mean, because I feel like if you look at all the shots of nebulas and stars, they're unbelievable. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but that's my thought. I think nature is as crazy as it could be. I mean, also, there's stuff left to be discovered too. So, Douglas Perry, take care. Thanks for stopping by. Okie dokie. So I'm going to keep going with this journey here. So what I not linked it, but I wrote it in the chat earlier. You got these two craters here, this amazing structural side-by-side hexagon, two-dimensional torus, the Birkeland filament cutting through. This is Hipparchus and Albategnius craters. Albategnius is quite a mouthful, but look at the sharpness of the hexagonal nature of Albategnius and tell me I'm crazy, please. Police. Look at that. Albategnius and Hipparchus. It's almost like the relationship between Sea of Serenity and Sea of Tranquility. You've got infinity, two-dimensional torus, hypotrochoid, hourglass shape, squeezed Birkeland filament, dielectric inertial, butterfly, apple, coaxial Birkeland filament, side-by-side nested hexagon, pentagon against hexagon, structure geometry at all scales. Also craters on the rims of larger craters, preferentially. Flat floors with central peaks. All of these are telltale signs of electric discharge machining. Granted, who knows, right? It could be a cratered surface from meteoric impact, or it could be something where electric arcing across the surface created this kind of bubbling and boiling of the surface. Let's move down a little bit more here. Hexagagnes. 50 freaking degrees. It's cold then. I mean, here it's so, it's like, gosh, I can't. I gotta send you perfect weather vibes. This is just like so grateful for this kind of weather. This crater right here, I'm trying to find the name of. I think it's Purbeck, or Purbeck. It's the one that looks like this black triangle, black pyramid. You see this right here? I think it's the only feature on the moon that really looks like this from our perspective, like a true sharp pyramid at an angle. And we only really get it when the terminator's across this line. So let me zoom in a bit more here, play a track. How about mutual masses?
And you drift away and reconcile with joy. And you drift away when the moon is riding full. Come, let's drift away. You're the queen of the night, and so living life for you. Without saying a lie, I know myself is impossible. I'm living in what you say, so
Alright, cool. One last, you went and checked out the wave stuff. That's awesome. I definitely recommend, I mean, I know most of y'all have been on this channel for a long time, but if you haven't checked out my playlists, I've done a lot of organizing, and it's kind of amazing to revisit some of the stuff like the transits and the lunar wave clips that I just added, and then of course this best of TakeBackSpace. So I'm going to link it because why not? And this has some of my best videos, about 30 of them. If you want to see like real footage of UFOs, we actually caught a bunch. You scroll down to the best of clips. a lot of them, you know, I could have tracked, and I checked on Stellarium, checked different satellite logging sites. So a lot of them that are deep sky objects are actually trackable satellites. But there are a couple that go across the moon that are things I could just never really verify, figure out what those were. Really fascinating stuff. And it's been quite a while since we've really captured anything like that since. Anyway, this playlist has a bunch of different stuff, like individual clips. It starts off with this 4K moon views, which is a 7% waning crescent moon in Venus. And trying to get like a 7% waning crescent on videos, like one of the most difficult things. It's like one of the last days of the moon, running into morning. And then you can see some of the older stuff, moon shadow object, ISS transit, tracking the giant. There's the double space wave live. You can see that whole stream. We're just like not expecting it, but the moment is electric, so to speak. And then Sun TV, and like there's a bunch of stuff in there. All right. I'm going to go back to the wide shot here for a second. I feel like some of y'all just showed up and you haven't seen the big cookie moon. So let's play some different jams. What about this one? Alright, some Harmony Wave, Surfing with the Alien. I remember that record. That's like a Satriani record. I grew up with that, but I still get the vibes. I want to say what's up to Cassandra. What's going on? Welcome back. Nice to see you again. It was in reference to seeing a face. Oh, you were asking, what'd you say up there? Let's see. The man on the moon was... So you called it the man on the moon. Yeah, there are a lot of different faces. There's one that kind of looks sideways, and there are some that are strewn about the different surface features, but I don't know. I don't think there's one definitive man on the moon anymore. Although you could say that the crescent moon with the old man kind of face looking to the side, that's the classic La Lune. But the actually, wasn't that early moon movie, that first moon movie, that was like a full moon face, and it just kind of added a mouth and two eyes just right in the middle. Alright, let's keep going with the vibes here, just showing the 50% moon. A rare sight to see, even though we do get to see it sometimes, but not often like this, because, you know, you need very clear skies, you need a low-hanging moon without all the aberrations, so it's a combination of good skies, ability to scope it. I'm always grateful for shots like this. Very particular ones. Like I said, some of those playlists I look back and I'm like, how the hell just in like a 7-year span of doing scoping that I was able to capture all these really incredible events. It just so happened to start at the right time. Especially things like the Mercury transit of the sun and then Venus being occulted by the moon, like the one in 2015. That was just like absolutely crazy. Or is it 2016? It was 2016. Lots of stuff has happened, y'all. Ready to dance. I know what that calls for. After this, I think I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Check out some... This is the wide shot here. 9:08 p.m. Willpowered.
I've been beaten from the heart, I know, no lie. I've been thinking about you all night, why, no why. I've been waiting for your white light, no why. Oh, I've been thinking that you should be mine. So call me up, and let's get down, down. So call me up, and let's get down. Oh, you send me messages across the cosmic network, and you send me pictures from across the astral plane, and you send me cryptic kisses across the matching network. So call me up, and let's get down. So call me up, and let's get down. Je t'attends, mon amour insaturel, ainsi la monde que la même cimère, achetant la éternelle, avec en son billet. Je suis la même que ton avant, l'année chaque jour. Je t'attends, mon amour, avec les mecs sans agrévé. Et c'est Lunar magnétique, c'est l'amour magnétique, c'est mon amour magnifique. Cool running, no it takes. These, I've been dreaming from the heart. No lie, been beaten from the heart eyes. No why, no why, no why. So call me up, 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 and let's get down, 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 down. So call me up, 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 and let's get down, 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 down.
Oh yeah, that was some good timing with the switching of the lens. So yeah, I got this is the camera with the focal reducer without the extender tube, so we're a little bit closer now. And then I rotated the camera a bit so we get this Cheshire smile, 50% moon. I think it's like, again, one of the cooler shots. Be able to see it. You can see a little bit of interesting kind of variation in the aperture, right? So at the bottom left, it's much brighter and it's almost on the verge of being overexposed. And then at the top right, you can kind of see, because of, I'm not exactly sure what goes on here, but I believe it's just because of libration. I want to say it's not, I'm not sure of it, but libration is lunar tilt. So I believe that that top right portion is actually tilted away from us a little bit. Therefore, it kind of, you have that gradation into darkness. So if I kind of brightened it up a little bit with the aperture and we got more brightness to see that terminator line, the bottom left corner would be too bright. So this is a good balance to see everything at once. I think it's always good to have that kind of equal, as little noise as possible and as fast as shutter speed as possible. Astralis said, lol, my husband just said this song reminds him of like, it's 3 a.m., you're still up. I'm not sure. That's my life, but like, I'm not sure. Is that another song? Maybe we should rename the song called into Pup Pup Pup. Alright, just being silly here. Cassandra saying, I always thought the face of the moon looked more like a skeleton face and not man. Well, I think the biggest things that I've started to notice on the moon, like I've drawn here, let me sketch a little bit and I'll show you. So if we're looking at the surface right here, we got Sea of Serenity, Sea of Tranquility, Sea of Crises, Sea of Fecundity or Fertility, Sea of Nectar, Mare Nectaris, and Mare Imbrium over here. This region kind of goes into, this is Mare Frigoris, the frigid sea. And what is this basin? I always forget this one. Mare Vaporum, Sea of Vapors right here. So fascinating geometry on the moon because you have the pentagonal nature of Sea of Serenity. Oops. Ptolemaeus at the corner. Then you have this boundary layer, and you have what is a hexagon. I know I see the bottom, but pretty much hexagon. And Mare Crisium hexagon. It doesn't really, I mean, it matters whether it's hexagonal or not, but more so the fact that these shapes, either like dodecahedrons, diamonds, nonagons, septagons, it just shows a couple of things. One, it shows how we have nesting and circle packing and geometric hexagonal, basically trying to find the strongest pattern in nature. And so something like a honeycomb, bees will create cylinders, and these cylinders will ultimately force together and create the closest possible arrangement they can while also keeping separation. If you've seen little ball bearings in a magnetized format like the primer fields, you'll see that the strongest form in nature is this hexagonal shape, but that doesn't mean everything conforms to hexagons. Everything is trying to become a hexagon. So at the beginning, it's a sphere or a circle. I'm sure you've heard me say it a bunch of times, but a circle, if you punch this into a program, you'll see that it takes about 32 points, 24 or 32 points along a circle to create a very smooth looking circle, which is why when you hear people talk about lunar craters, and they're like, even Thunderbolts Project, which does postulate hexagonal, or like just does reference hexagonal cratering, and saying the majority of the lunar craters are circular. So people just envision this, or they envision ellipses. But when you really look at the moon, it's actually much more structured. You have very strong 90-degree angles, you've got diamonds, you've got seashells, you've got Mare Nectaris right here. And you also have this phenomenon of craters along the rims of larger craters, or small craters on the rims of larger craters, craters on the rims of Mare or Maria. And it's undeniable. So really what's going on is that things are circular, but what happens with two circles, when they come closer together, they start creating a boundary layer. And if you have circles on every side, you start getting boundary layers. And these boundary layers will push closer and closer together, and ultimately a circle will start to deform based on the pressure, and then it will become this structured geometry. Why is that important? Because it implies that we have fundamental geometry. It implies that things are self-organizing, because this is spatial awareness. So two things that run into each other creating a boundary recognize that there is a boundary to be created. So it's almost self-referential awareness. So you have geology being recursively fractal, you have structured inheritance of geometry, you have reason, you can understand why we have honeycomb or hexagonal latticing inside in nature everywhere. If you look at yourself in the mirror and you look at your two eye sockets, you'll see that your eyes are two side-by-side hexagons pointed, like tip first at each other, and the bridge of the nose goes down, and mouths are also hexagons and diamonds. The face is so geometric, and it's because when we're grown along a Birkeland filament, a coaxial twisting braided filament, and so eyeballs emerge right here, and the bridge of the eye sockets, and then the nose, right? And then the mouth. That's structured geometry, right? All the way down. The brain. We have symmetry. We also have, it's almost like a balloon and then a pinch. Compression, rarefaction, and then it expands outwards. This is a terrible embodiment, but you can tell what I'm saying. Go look at yourself in the mirror and you'll see all this geometry. Actually, the jaw does this too. The jaw is actually hexagonal. And that goes out, and the ears are also much more geometric than people think. It's almost the same thing when people talk about circles versus hexagons on the moon. So yeah, these are a few of my favorite things. That's what I see now. I used to see faces in the patterns, but the reason we see faces is because we are faces of patterns. We recognize each other as patterning instances of consciousness. And therefore, now on the surface of the moon, I see butterflies, I see the face of a leopard, I see nested honeycombs, I see sugar molecules, I see bubbles. I see bubbles.
Don't Angel of the street, people of the western, no one replies. I see me through her headlights and all my disgraces fall away. I'll build a branch someday, then come our train, station away to find your mama. Acquisitions sold at the bitter end, scanning fine features down at the village inn. A nightmare on Prince found you in Triangle Park, dark subway in the bar on Houston. Yeah, on Houston. I don't wanna fall asleep no more, just waiting for this train at Prince and Houston. Say I don't wanna follow shit no more, just get me to the rain at Prince and Houston. I don't wanna fall asleep no more, just waiting for a train at Prince and Houston. I don't wanna follow shit no more, to the rain at Prince and Houston.
Hopping in here to say what's up to Mary, Pup, and Red Room, good to see you. I'm so glad. I'm reading about your Red Room. Your mom is doing better today. Yeah, my mom is doing better too. It's really good stuff. I think this hurricane and all the different events at the same time must have been something. It's great to hear. Great to see you. Just vibing here a little bit more, and then I want to take. I see Cassandra's question says, how did the moon get all these craters when the side we see would mean that things hit it by passing by Earth? I don't quite know much about space. So there are a couple of theories out there in terms of how the moon got its craters and how the moon was formed. One of them, well, the two main ones are that the moon was formed by clumping together of material around a protoplanetary Earth, and then it formed into a giant planetoid-style moon, and then it was bombarded with these late heavy bombardment periods, which was just millions of meteorites striking the moon maybe 3 to 4 billion years ago. And there's an animation of it on the NASA JPL YouTube channel. That's, if you looked up mainstream understanding of that, and then all the videos around that support it are just people referencing the same kind of model. So something hit a primitive Earth or a primitive planet like Earth, and then it broke up into debris. Debris clumped together, created a planet, created a moon. Recently, I found this channel by Jeffrey Walensky, which I've linked to before, and the theory is called stellar metamorphosis. In this theory, he proposes that all planets and moons were actually originally stars. And it makes a lot more sense that way, because then you can imagine the complexity of what the moon looks like, the complexity of what Earth is, the complexity of all our planets. And it makes more sense that if they were derived or evolved from original stars, because that's how you'd have enough heat and molecular mixing and exotic matter creation, and also enough time for complex matter and humans and animals and life to form on a planet like Earth from within a star, and then it loses atmosphere, and then it kind of regulates and becomes a planet. In stellar metamorphosis, something like Earth could end up something like the moon. And he proposes that the moon is actually way, way older than people imagine. And I'm getting to where the moon got its craters. So in the standard model, moon got its craters just haphazardly because it existed. In the stellar metamorphosis idea is that the Earth was once a star. It captured the moon. The moon was far older and already basically a dead world. And then the moon, the side facing Earth star, got these melted oceans of lava, and the side facing away from Earth star got cratered, pockmarked with tons of cratering. And this would happen if something like Earth star, which was sucking in all the matter, you'd get these massive bombardment waves of meteorites striking the Earth star, actually being consumed by the star Earth. And then because of the moon being trapped within the Earth's orbital field, then that side of the moon facing away from us would be bombarded, heavily pockmarked, while the surface facing us would be tethered to Earth with potentially electrical interactions, and therefore you'd have all these much more complex geometries. And it might be that way that we have two sides of the moon, two different explanations for it. It's the one explanation that I've heard that actually fills in a lot more details than just the moon was created haphazardly and 3-4 billion years ago it just got hit by a shower of meteorites, and that's how it looks the way it does today. Stellar metamorphosis puts it in context where it actually, you need to think about bigger ideas, but actually it gives an actual rational explanation as to how the moon looks the way it does. I got a squeaky chair. Still haven't bought a new one, but I will. Red Room says, glad you're doing okay. Yeah, we dodged one here in Tampa. Really amazing, just unbelievable luck. But I also had faith. Always am grateful, no matter what happens. But that's why I got on immediately. I was like, I'm getting back on, do this moon stream with these perfect skies. Cincy Camillo, Little Debbie's. I should get some Little Debbie's. Let me know if I missed anybody in the chat. Great to see all my OG Space fans. Let me know if you have any song requests. It's going to play Full of Life over here. Keep doing a zoomed-in tour. We're going to definitely see some Saturn tonight. And yeah, our moon is exactly 50% right now, so pretty special. 2nd of October, 9:35. Edge of space, the fringe fractal of all time and space.
so their words cut harder once. Side bombing, mom and dad, those times ain't coming back. Hard to know just how to feel, and could they ever know peace? Maybe I'll just cut them slack, but they work so hard to relax, and when they get their bodies to the sea, I feel the end becomes me. We're the end, become the solution. Smiles, not confusion. My heart, I release you to the memory of this place. High, stellar far, song, an analog. And I feel like running back, gone too far this time, but I'm glad we're analog.
Alright, vibing out here with some Rasta vibes, like you said. Absolutely. A few years ago, I tried to deconstruct some of Bob Marley's songs and re-record them. At one point, I actually used to play them on the show, but no longer because of copyright stuff. But from dissecting them and kind of learning, of course, I'd listened to Bob for so many years, and Steel Pulse and Black Uhuru and other reggae acts like Sly and Robbie. And then when I discovered Fela Kuti, if you haven't listened to Fela Kuti, you should. That changed all my whole perspective on music again. And so now when I do some of these tracks, it's like trying to learn how the ins and outs of writing stuff like this. By no means am I comparing myself, but I learned a lot from that. Yeah, we need a flying witch sensei. It's been a while. It's been a while. What should I play here? Let's do something different. What about Circuit Breaker? So yeah, Albategnius looked amazing. You saw that hexagon, and then Hipparchus. And we saw Purbeck earlier, the Black Pyramid. Just look at all these different structures, and what's interesting, I've said it before, but the cross-section of a lightning bolt or a Birkeland current is counter-rotating nested hexagons. So when you see features that are hexagons, if you imagine like a plug was just plugged into the surface and it left a mark. Versus, of course, impact craters, which you have meteors coming from the sky and either exploding over the surface or hitting the moon at an angle and creating these diamond shapes or these hexagons. It's kind of, that's where, you'll get called a lot of names for questioning this. You'll be like, people said all sorts of dumb things to me. But it's so weird that we can't talk about it because you have this very structured moon surface. You have electrical arcing in a laboratory. But when you try and make a crater in a laboratory, it looks nothing like these very orderly geometries. Nested hexagons, pentagon against hexagon, all these striations moving across the surface. You can't actually find laboratory experiments that produce this accurately without electric discharge sputtering or EDM. Not electronic dance music, but electric discharge machining in a laboratory produces this type of result. And at the same time, this is also natural or organic growth. So these could be bubbles too. This could be volcanism. But there are just a lot of things to talk about if we really dug into it. But either way, a bigger thing here is just to notice that the moon craters, pretty much none of them are actually really perfectly circular. And in fact, most of them are diamonds, hexagons, pentagons. It's just a huge, I don't want to say discovery, but it is sort of a discovery. It's something that like I found on Thunderbolts Project, but when you look at the moon in depth, it's littered with hexagons or primitive geometries and not perfect circles or ellipses. Frederick says, your video images are always stable. Is your mount on the ground or on a concrete pad? What's crazy about it is this actual tripod is on a concrete staircase right now, on a second-story staircase, and it does amazingly well. I actually did something pretty good tonight, so I added some rubber pads, some new ones on the feet of the tripod. Right now I have 2 legs on one stair, and then I have one of the legs of the tripod on 2 stairs down. So it's very rickety to a point, but yeah, I added rubber pads, and I also did 2-star alignment tonight, so I feel it's a little bit better. It's pretty stable right now, even though I'm also adjusting it. It's tricky. It's really tricky, but thank you. I try and make it as stable as possible. Sensei Camilo says, when lightning hits sand on a beach, it sometimes makes glass below the surface. I wonder if there's some kind of beautiful glass art under the surface of the moon. There are lunar samples, and there are samples on Earth and Mars as well, of these glass beads. And so I feel like, of course, there must be these cool little glass diamond, not only diamonds, but marbles, little glass marbles, strewn about the lunar surface. And the reason I think that happens is because things transmogrify, and basically electricity can induce current into an object and turn it into transmutate it, actually. So you do get these glass beads when electric discharge hits a surface. It's the same way potentially organic matter like wood turns into, it becomes calcified, like what's it called? Petrified wood. All right, some more tunes here. I was going to play this song, wasn't I? Let me know if you're seeing these shapes. That's pretty funny. That's, you rarely get those. I don't want to say you rarely get those moments, but sometimes you get those wow moments. And that one was one of them where you turn up the brightness and you see this instant figure. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to pull up my paint program and draw it, scribble it, doodle this noodle. But if you've caught it, good job. I'll give you a few seconds to find the move. So, Rima Hygienus with the nose right there, the mouth, neck, body, and the hair, and the eyes. I see it. Maybe it's a bird. Maybe it's a bird. It looks like, you know, that kind of, the mouth is very small, but you can see it. Let me see if I can, it's right there, that kind of shadow right there. That's the nose. There we go, that's a little bit better. And the hair coming down. I'm just doing a little pareidolia now, but more so, interestingly, is Rima Hygienus being this kind of braided filament, right? And then you have a pinch, like a node along it, which is this Z-pinch Markland convection happening. This whole feature is super interesting, actually. Not only do you have this kind of shape going on, so you almost have like a connected plasma Birkeland current. So Birkeland current is the tube, right? It's this cylinder, and inside it you have counter-rotating currents, which are actually nested hexagons. And so if you imagine that this tube right here, the cylinder, is actually being pinched at different convective points, Markland convection. And that's the same reason our head actually is fat and our neck is skinny, and then our chest is fat and our waist is skinny, because we're grown along a Birkeland filament. And when you look at us from the side, it's the same sort of thing. Everything like peas, you know, like compression rarefaction. Look at your arms, your fingers. It's recursive fractaling of bubble, pinch, bubble, pinch, bubble, pinch, but also coalescing to a point, almost like our vision coalesces to a vanishing point. Yeah, it sounded like a Harley. It was a Harley. That's for sure. I don't even know. Let's see. Cybersully says, also so many of the hexagons have a central point, which is 6, which is 6 resting on 1, being the sacred 7. Again, I think all the numbers, right, it's recursively fractal. So numbers are the shapes are the numbers, the thoughts are the shapes, our words are shapes and carved into the ether. I think the shapes are, and the sides and the vibrations. Well, interestingly, it's a perfect segue into this Modes and Modulation title of the show tonight. I was thinking about all these different things. The very simple understanding is that why is there order, why do all snowflakes look the same? Why do all people look the same but a little bit different? And it's just everybody's playing a different symphony, an arrangement of different musical oscillations, harmonic oscillations, harmonic cascades, the way we interact with life, the way we oscillate in the ether. And this is actually what creates the variance that we perceive in one another, and I think objects, and also I think the condition of discernment is actually harmonic modulation and oscillation frequency. So how it oscillates and how fast, basically the frequency by which it oscillates and the tone it oscillates at, or the hertz. And basically what it really is just variance in in vibration. Vibration variance is the symphony of life. Each of us got our own, each part of us has its own, every collective has its own, their own. All right, let's keep riding here. So this Rima Hygienus area is super cool in Mare Vaporum. You know, the other thing that it looks like is this, like something was just cooked into the surface. It looked like something was either, what's that word? Branded. You know, I was going to say brandished, but it's not brandished. Brandished the blade. No, but branded, like branding a calf or a cow. It almost looks like something was just emblazoned onto the surface here. Like a mythic symbol, like an Elder Scroll. Maybe that's what it really was, probably an Elder Scroll gate. And they closed the gate of oblivion that just left a mark. Anybody play Elder Scrolls? Alright, going up to the Apennine mountain range, look at this. This almost looks like a dragon head or a wolf head coming up right here. One of the coolest phases. I always say that, but it's pretty much every region has a coolest phase. Basically, I find myself saying that a lot, but it's true. Like right now, this is the only time you're going to see the Apennine mountain range from this angle with this shadow against it. You might never see it exactly like this again. We may never see it like that. So this particular angle breeding its type of pareidolia and all its patterning, like this. Do you see this fish looking at you, or this totem? So interesting. Let's sketch some more. Got the eye over here. Got the eye over here. Got the nose. It's almost like a Toltec something, like a totem pole kind of. But still, you see this rarefaction, compression, compression, rarefaction, compression, rarefaction. From the side, it's a wave, and here are all the donuts, and you're basically pinching plasma tubes vortexially. I started writing down the slides today, and I was like, man, there are so many different aspects of what I talk about. It's a bit overwhelming, but I'll go through it show by show. All right, let's keep going here with the. Let me know if you saw that little creature. Let's play some tunes. that track come from? That's called The Good Noodle. Don't even think I haven't heard this one like since I wrote it. It's not even a thing. But it's cool. It's definitely something I could mine for ideas. All right, just talking. I got a song queued up, but I definitely want to talk about what we're looking at because why not? Because it's worth it. All these different amazing features right here at the Apennine mountain range. Let's pull up the paint tool. So right, this is Mare Imbrium. We've got Cassini, Autolycus, Aristillus, Archimedes. We've got like a really interesting lower jaw, like teeth almost. You could follow this out, kind of like a dragon head, or you said a buck or a deer. There's a bunch of stuff going on here. Let me just adjust that a little bit. Yeah, so we can see. It actually does look like a buck in a way. Pointy nose, got the mouth, the eye. Not too bad. Even the teeth are kind of outlined. Where's that? 2 giant teeth. 3 giant teeth. Shockwave, what's going on, friend? How you feeling today? Hope you're doing a little bit better. I mean, not better, just hope you're doing great. Did I miss anybody? A baying elk, that's what you said, Cybercelli, great. That's a good one. I tried to do my best there. So yeah, but the Apennine mountain range looking amazing, all these different elevations, the shadows just at a particularly great relief angle. Let's look more. It's just like such a compendium of different things. You have the striations around. Is this Aristillus or Autolycus? Which is the bigger one? Let's see. Aristillus is the bigger one, right? Aristillus, Autolycus is smaller. But you see this kind of zigzagging of lines that are coming across it, or crisscrossing rather, and almost like veins leading up to it. It looks a lot like Copernicus later on. And then we got Cassini, which is such an interesting crater with a very prominent center craterlet. And then let's move up a little bit more, and we see an amazing feature here called Valles Alpes, the Alpine mountain range. And that actually, this valley or this cut is something I think they reference in Thunderbolts, but I feel like if they don't, they should. This is one of those very interesting, like 300-kilometer long cut right through a mountain range, like somebody just excavated, or something just excavated, just a gash right through a feature. And then if we could zoom in even more, you'd see like a center, like gully that goes right through the middle of a channel, through this channel. The channel. But it also looks like a little caterpillar. This is actually, it looks like a leaf almost. Let's see if I can draw that. Almost like, you see this? Like if we follow that. It has the shape of a leaf a little bit. I don't know if you see that. But anyway, Valles Alpes right here, Alpine Valley. This kind of dagger shape, about 300 kilometers. And then, like I said, a middle path through the channel. Mare Frigoris over here, Sea of Frigidity. Cassini, like I was saying, with the microcraterlet. Really cool region. Hurdy-gurdy, man. Take care. Great to see you. And catch you next one. Sensei Camilla, got to take the dogs for a walk. Awesome. All good. I'm going for a bit longer. Got to get this view in and then get up some Saturn tonight. I'm all about the astronomy lately, just especially when we get into these seasons where we get some clear viewing, some clairvoyance. All right, that was a little bit of scribbling. So let's get some music going. just talk a little bit about Albategnius. Again, one of the funkier names, but very cool shape and detail tonight. We got perfect hexagonal form. But what's cooler even is like nested hexagon. So particular. I mean, maybe pentagon, but really. And then here you got the central peak. You got this kind of cool Dali-esque droplet. What a cool setup here at Albategnius. And if I'm not going to miss that you have this kind of X shape over here, which that's the Z pinch. That's the outline of the Birkeland filament. You can even see almost the chain of craters going on. Almost looks like a Fibonacci spiral cascade. And you've got Hipparchus over here also. So this idea that impact versus electric, it's one of those things, you know, that's where we exist today, where people think things hit the moon and created this, other people think electric arcing did this, you know, and others think it's volcanic, you know, these emerge from the ground. Either way, I think the structure is what's important here, whether or not it's impact or electric, that you end up with hexagons is kind of the main point, right? And why do you have this organization of structure and also all the sputtering marks? Really cool. Bit of chromaticism going on with the fringing, the orange and blue, but it's fine. It's pretty gorgeous. This like 2x multiplier, and I could put a Barlow in here, but I think we'd lose the kind of definition. So I'm going to keep going with this view. We're seeing pretty much everything. Excellent, excellent viewing tonight. I was like, electric rocket, and then Mary said helicopters, and I was like, yeah, helicopters. Golden helicopters. This is the view. Hovering in tiny golden helicopters over the moon. Keep going here with the guitar jams. hopping in. Say goodnight to Mary. Mary, nice to see you. Sleep well. I'm a little sleepy too. I know exactly how you feel. It's one of those lazy weekends. So it is still the weekend, right? We still got a couple more hours. But thanks for stopping by. All right, so this Purbeck thing is kind of nuts. I gotta say, like I definitely have noticed it before. We've seen it a bunch, but it's so particular tonight. And the trick of the eye, the trompe d'oeil, allows us to kind of see some really interesting pareidolia. Of course, I don't think this is actually what's going on, but if you want to see the cube that I'm seeing, you got this thing like a cube that's just been wedged into the ground. And then you got the little crescent moon going on over here. It's pretty fascinating. Of course, it's not that. You could also say that that's like a pyramid. It's also not a pyramid, but it really looks like that. It also looks like one of those demonic figures in a way, with the teeth and the nose and the eyes. Y'all see that? Like this huge kind of crazy figure, like a squid maybe. But anyway, Purbeck is stealing the show, that's for sure. I don't think I've ever seen it in this kind of detail before. At least not as far as like the last few years. So I'm enjoying it, that's for sure. But what's going on is that Mary was asking about where the sun is, and the sun is basically, if you want to imagine, it's right above these craters, even though it's casting a shadow. So it's slightly angled, but you're basically getting light from directly above on this crater. I imagine it's right on the Terminator. So it looks almost like a little ritual garden, an enclosed garden where they put a couple of stones in the middle, little pathway with a moon on the arc. You know, this almost looks like Ed Leedskalnin's Coral Castle. That's crazy. Just a little bit, if anyone's been to Coral Castle. So yeah, a little garden, pyramid. Pretty cool Purbeck, I gotta say. Let me know if y'all have seen this before or it's new. I know we caught it before, but nothing really not in this kind of detail. Okie dokie. I'm gonna go get myself a drink and let y'all. I'm gonna go to the wide shot for a second here. It'll probably be some nice detail, and then we'll go over to Saturn, and then close the show. It's been going for 2 hours. That's good. That's good. The connection's working too. It's very relaxing when the connection just works. This is Why Am I?
ball into your nighttime activities, your liberties. What can you say? You're my sister and I love you forever. You're my brother and I love you forever. Love you forever. I recall I knew the sun, the additives, foreign greases. All we know is from the one chopped down where healing runs and body races. Won't you tell me what you like, what you need, what you need? I got so much love for you, and I can say, yeah, you're my sister and I love you forever. Just find the time to look at your eyes and notice you're my brother and I love you forever. Just find the time, just find the time, just find the time, just find the time. You're my sister and I love you forever. You're my brother and I love you forever. Just find the time, just find the time, just find the time to love you forever. Just find the time. Oh, and don't stop.
Alright, I'm glad I had a drink already ready to go. Want to hop in and say welcome to Mark Lindsay. Amazing to see you in here, my friend. You're asking about, do you see the thin ring around? Yeah, are you talking about the kind of orange-yellow fringe? So this is the camera direct to the 8-inch scope, and we're getting fringing because the moon is is setting actually right now in, let me look. Yeah, we got a nice orange haze. It's about 20 degrees. So we're starting to get a bit of that fringing going on, a bit of that yellow glow. And we see some amazing features here with the wide shot. Also wanted to say hi to Mauricio Prieto. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but buenos noches. I see Nebula Orion. What's going on? I think, yeah, I mean, I imagine because in the eyepiece you would also see the fringing, right? Or no? Maybe not. Just because I think as soon as you put glass in between us and the moon, it's going to create a more intense effect of the glow. Let's see. Cool. Jello, take care. So what I was going to say is we see some really great features here, like Mare Marginis, which is a particularly cool feature, like almost this melted burb, like a melted burb. Let me scribble right here on Mare Marginis, right under Mare Crisium. So Mare Crisium, hexagon, and then this area, Mare Undarum and Mare Marginis. These very cool bubbly areas. Typically we see them better when there's libration, where this side is tilted more towards us. sometimes it's tilted further away from us, and this gets shrunken down to like much more of a feature like that. Detail's pretty spectacular tonight, Ellie, right? You've seen it so many times, but sometimes we get these special crispy nights. So let's just do a quick recap on the geometry. Like I said, there's this whole structure here that Electric Universe talks about. The first references to it are from this guy, Brian J. Ford, in the 60s, and Ralph Jurgens, who knew Velikovsky. But almost nobody really talks about this geometric shape on the moon. This is Sea of Serenity, Sea of Tranquility, and then Sea of Crises. And very structured geometric patterns. And so what's going on here is you have this expansion omnidirectionally of a circular feature and meeting boundary layers from outside, creating thin, like straight walls and corners. Because the structure of the universe is trying to coalesce to basically become the strongest structure it can be. And so a circle will compress down into a more primitive shape. A circle is actually just an arrangement of 32 or 24 points when you go around. I mean, of course, you could add more points, but at a certain point, you no longer see difference in the smoothness. So about, I mean, even, I would say maybe even 60 points. If you put 60 points in a circle, it's a perfectly smooth circle. If you reduce the number of points or the vertices of a circle down to 5 or 6, or where we're seeing septagons or nonagons, you end up getting this geometry. The geometry is that way because the universe is trying to pack, because everything is aware, spatially aware of itself and its surroundings, and it reacts by creating boundary layers. You also have the structure of a diachotron instability, which is also hexagonal. Proteins fold into hexagons. The bridge of your eyes are hexagons, honeycombs, on and on and on. But yeah, Sea of Serenity against Sea of Tranquility is a 5 into a 6. And the 5 into a 6 shape is just this kind of, this perfect imperfection of symmetry, right? This oscillation, wobble of the symmetry. And the symmetry would happen down this line, this boundary layer. Every boundary layer would be the same sort of thing, but you see the funnel shape over here, the hypotrochoid, or the hourglass shape. And it's really outlining the donut shape, which is the two-dimensional structure of a torus. And this is also the shape of an apple, the shape of a butterfly, the shape of the eyes, where the nose would start emerging. Because, because we as humans and creatures are grown along Birkeland filaments, our nervous system literally outlines electric structure, electric root systems. And our eyes would emerge along the dielectric inertial plane, which would be the compressed point right here. And we see the geology outline that exact shape. So you got the butterfly, you got the apple, and it happens everywhere. So it happens here too. You get small hexagon against large hexagon, Mare Crisium against Tranquility. Interestingly, again, you got Posidonius on the edge of Sea of Serenity. So small craters on the rims of large craters, large craters on the rims of Mare. Nebula says, "'Tis not really a hexagon, though, if you draw the lines correct." You mean on Tranquility? But I'll show you. Maybe it is actually... Are you saying we could do that? Maybe it is a pentagon. We could do that. But the way I see Tranquility is actually against Proclus being the Z-pinch. If Proclus goes down that way, and you have the hourglass structure this way, you've got a hexagon on Crisium, and then you've got this structure. This is the primary structure that I see of Tranquility. You do have this diamond that eats into it, you have these nested geometric patterns here. I'm not saying it's exactly a hexagon, but I think if you follow just the very basic outlines, let's follow it almost exactly. I still think it's pretty close. Also, there's no point to proving this to anyone. It's more for me to understand the surface of the moon, and I just convey it to y'all. And I think it just comes down to a point of like understanding why there are these sharp corners, why you have hexagons on the north pole of Saturn, why your face looks like hexagons. This seems to be a rational explanation for it, as opposed to like we have no idea. But let me know, do you see like Mare Crisium not being a hexagon, or like even the smaller ones? I'll show you, like, if we look at, because of course it's not just like isolated hexagons, right? There's layering and layering of whatever either impacted or electric arced the surface or boiled the surface. There was over and over, like repeated patterns on top of each other. So I do see, of course, if we did tranquility like this, you'd get something a little more like that, right? If we followed that outline exactly. But I don't know, maybe it is a pentagon into a pentagon. But I definitely, like I showed you, I see it a bit more like this against that, so that shape. Everybody else chime in, let me know what you think. Maybe I'm just seeing things, but to me it makes sense. All right, couple of tunes here. This is called Oh Why Not. I haven't played this in a long time. but I see some chatter, so let's do it. Let's talk about some hexes. And also, Frederick has a question. It says, when I come out of this music set, please talk about your rocket launch viewing history. I've never seen an actual rocket launch, to be honest. I've seen just the trail of it from where I'm at. I've never actually gone. It's still on my list of things to do, for sure. I had a friend who was going to take me, and then he ended up moving. Morgan Ellis, what's going on? Nice to see you. All right, so let's talk about the geometry and why it's important, because I think we have the structure in nature. I think that's important to establish. The main thing is that there are hexagons in nature. We don't disagree. I mean, let me know if you disagree with me, but we have the hexagons in a honeycomb, molecular structure, crystal lattices, the eye sockets, basalt columning, structures on at least Mare Crisium. Kimmy, have a great night. Awesome to have you here. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next time. Thanks for all the kind comments on the music. I know. I really appreciate it, by the way. So, yeah. So we have hexagons in nature. So the question that I came to is, what's the deal with that? What's the deal with hexagons? And when you look up what's the deal with hexagons in geology, in honeycomb, in basalt columning, in bubble packing, if you look at bubbles in a sink or make coffee, you'll see that bubbles pack and they create nested hexagons and primitive objects. And I don't know if it's something we can't understand. I just think it's something that mainstream doesn't choose to discuss very often. And the places that I found answers is these boundary layers between spherical or cylindrical objects. And so that geometry that is reciprocal and recursive throughout nature and all of reality is pretty fundamental, I think, especially since there is an understanding, a mainstream just narrative of circular craters everywhere in the universe. But a lot of these are actually not circular, and I think that's also really important. Have I watched any notable launches? I watched, I've watched the stuff on the streams. Like I've watched SpaceX launches and the rocket reverse landings, and I mean, I remember even Challenger from when I was a kid, but nothing like, honestly, it's so weird how close I am to this stuff, but certain things I just check out of. I tend to review it later. I never watch anything really live in terms of sitting on a stream, even though I stream. But yeah, I mean, that's my Nebula and Mark, Nebula says maybe it's the fingerprint of God. So I would say if we looked up the cross-section of a Birkeland current or the cross-section of a lightning bolt, and depending on where you get where that information is coming from, or you tried to do that experiment, you'd see that apparently the structure is actually nested counter-rotating hexagons. And therefore, it does become logical as to why these shapes emerge. I think it's not too hard to understand that there is an inherent structure to the universe, and that it's formed because the Birkeland currents, the electrical filaments that pervade the universe, that's what their shape is. And so they leave that mark on surfaces, they leave that mark in the shape of things. And it's fractally recursive at every order of magnitude. Yeah, the sun is basically, I feel like, especially at a 50% moon mark, it's almost right behind us right now. So it's lower right, but it's almost opposite where the moon is at. So we're getting shadows that are slightly angled towards the right, but the moon is almost directly opposing. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's how I feel right now. That's why we're getting this amazing relief. We're looking at the craters, that's like what, 5 degrees, 10 degrees where the sun's at. Shadows are very short. But yeah, not only do we have hexagons, but we also have these striations, these sinuous rills, and these kind of elevated features. And so what's one step further on the hexagons, it's not just hexagons, right? It's just primitive geometry and patterns. This kind of, not to be dismissive myself, but the dismissive language around, oh, it's just patterns, or oh, it's just this shape, or maybe it's something we can't understand. For me, I can put that on the shelf and then I can keep going a little bit and say, well, why can't we understand? Like, what is the pattern here? And then if you take it one step further, the logical conclusion is that hexagons are an emergent pattern in nature, and they are fractally recursive throughout. And if the cross-section of a lightning bolt at one size is hexagonal, then why wouldn't it be like the Birkeland current going through the magnetic pole of Saturn, creating the hexagonal diachotron storm at the pole of Saturn, Jupiter. If you look at the video from Don Scott on Thunderbolts Project, he shows all the different planets plus Earth, and shows that the aurora basically are nested counter-rotating hexagons. And I think it's super relevant. All right, little thoughts there. So, the moon is about to set. I think it's time maybe to go over to Saturn. Let's see what's going on. Maybe we'll just go to Saturn for a little excursion and then see the moon set. So there's still a while, and I've been streaming for a bit. Don't mean to be combative. This is just something that I love and I feel it is relevant, and I love to hear other people's opinions, especially my space fam. Let's play something different here. Something I haven't played in a while. Let's see what it may be. Yeah, maybe a little energy. 10:54 p.m., edge of space, still on the moon, in our electric universe. Wow, those are a couple weird tracks. Maybe something else here. But just before I go over to Saturn, just let's take a look real quick at Hipparchus and Albategnius. And you can see a very clear hexagonal shape at Albategnius here, especially with the central peak and the nested geometry. I think it is super interesting to see all this on the surface of the moon. It's just something new, right? It's just something that hasn't been talked about or thought about. I feel like even if it doesn't have ultimate relevance, that at least it's something different. So what song are we going to do here? Maybe Howlin' at... Oh, well, we're going to go over to Saturn, so we need something pretty epic here. What shall it be? Wow, maybe this. I haven't done this in a long time.
and I slipped. Hey, now I'm falling. I'm going adrift. Different ways, suffering days. I can't even remember my own name. I was the one who holds the silver keys. But the truth is, God, you were the one who wanted to slay the beast. And it's all around you. I was the one who ever holds the key. But the truth is, God, you were the one who said you'd slay the beast. And it's all around you. I was the one who holds the silver key. But the truth is, God, you were the one who wanted to slay the beast. And it's all around you. Bring me back. Just bring me back out of the cold. Ooh, bring me back. Just bring me back. I need you more. This cosmic revelation, we all have our bases to play. We the creatures grinding against the grain. Built your world with nothing to fear but yourself. Apparitions that we bleed through. Every fear, your open wide soul modulation. You just come feel this ride so high, your love I'm craving. But I can't see it till you, ooh, just bring me back.
vibes. We'll keep going here, but just quickly. Yeah, I think the other night it was even way clearer than this. For some reason, it just feels very far tonight. I think it's due to the fact that it's, well, at least the clarity is due to the fact that it's high up in the sky, which is cutting through, I think, the cold airstream that's been happening after the hurricane. So I know that we're getting some aberration. Either way, for an 8-inch, it's doing fine. I will try the Barlow. I have a 2.5x Barlow. Let's see if that actually works. I mean, there is enough brightness and it's clear, so we'll see. Let's go here. What is this one's called? Nice.
In the rain, in the cold, have dinner around the
So funny trying to track this with the 2.5 Barlow. Of course, I had it all zoomed in, so it was difficult to center, and then the motor just kept going to 9 instead of 3, so I was jumping all over the place. That's not too bad. I think I could adjust the settings even a bit more. That's the max out on this 8-inch, I think, but it's a little bit better, I think, a little bit more detail. It's so crazy. I'll play another song here and try and adjust it a bit better, which goes some Keep You Waiting here. Not a bad shot, actually. But what's interesting, it looks like there's so much noise going on, but the ISO, the signal to noise ratio, is not that bad, and the aperture is not that wide, so you can just see what's going on really with digital cameras and the amount of glass that you put between the camera, right, and the whatever we're looking at. And so you get this kind of major noise, like lots of noise patterns, noise diffusion. Regardless. So yeah, you saw quickly when I had to go and focus the 2.5 Barlow on the moon. Maybe we'll go back. Oh, Jesus Christ. Come back, Saturn. Thank you. Maybe we'll just go to the moon again and take a look with this magnifier. And then I think maybe it's time for me to head out and get snacky because I'm pretty hungry right now. 3-hour stream. All the good peoples. I see like lots of people showed up now. Hope everybody's doing great. 11:18 p.m. watching our beautiful skies after the storm. And everyone's talking about seeing Saturn for the first time. I saw Saturn a few blocks from here at my first place, and it was just absolutely amazing, like so much cooler than anyone had ever told me, especially when you see it with an eyepiece against the background stars. Truly remarkable. Same thing with Jupiter, but I don't think I've really even lost the feeling. When I'm looking at this now, it's just unbelievable that this actually exists and that we can see it. sometimes it gets a little like, oh wow, we have planets, that's cool, but a lot of the times like, wow, this is so crazy. So crazy. Yeah, I'm getting a little tired, a little delirious. Let's play this track here. Let's go see the moon for a little bit. So Saturn, thank you for the views tonight, and the rings and the vibes.
voices just leaving. I've been there, I see shit. Our oscillators the weirdest, nobody can hear it. Sometimes we just feel it, or they just staring beneath it. I've been waiting just now. Flying up till the bubbles pop. That's so high now. That's so high now. That's so high now. That's so high now. I've been waiting just now. Flying up till the bubbles pop. That's so high now. That's so high now. That's so high now. That's so high now. Don't tell me what you see. No will for the ones you left. And I crawl up beside you. Fly. You're my hurricane. No sleep when I lost you. No sleep when I lost you. You're my hurricane. No fear when I lost you. No fear when I lost you. You're my hurricane. Empty on that counter beach, radical up to the chest. We saw all getting high here, and so many words of the lake and the birds below the beach. The summers of rain. Oh, tell me the way you've been. Slide over me, slide over me. You were a dream, sweet dream. Don't slow you on so deep. And you come up beside you. Fly. You're my hurricane. No sleep when I lost you. No sleep when I lost you. You're my hurricane. No fear when I lost you. No fear when I lost you. You're my
All right, friends. We've come to the end of another awesome, fun stream, electric stream, hexagonal stream, stream of consciousness, stream of care and love. Sending out good vibes to my fam. I appreciate every one of you and everyone who didn't make it tonight. If you're checking this out tomorrow, I hope you're having a great day. NGC, Miguel, all my good peeps. You know who I'm referring to. And I appreciate every one of you who hung out tonight. Mark, Lindsay, great to see you. Welcome on the stream. Welcome. I've been watching a lot of French videos. Welcome on my stream. Welcome to the stream and hanging out and talking about geology. and such. Have a great night. Ellie, you have a safe night. Australis, Morgan Ellis, Nebula, great chat. All good if we disagree a little bit. Who else? See who I got still, but I know Frederick was here. Thanks for the comments and hanging out. I know Peter Battle was here. Esoteric Gold, More Jello, Genghis Khan, Mary, of course, Kimmy, and Cyber Sully. I know other people were here too, Renegade, and thanks y'all. I appreciate you. Let's take this out with this track called Feel For You. One of my faves, got some horns in it. And this shot of the moon, I just dig it. It's been a while since I've done a tree line shot, but it's just glowing, it's beautiful. Stay safe, stay brilliant. I'll catch you either tomorrow or the night after. See a bit more about Saturn. And Jupiter is actually so close to being able to be visible, but maybe in a few nights we'll be able to catch Jupiter as well. Stay electric. Bonne nuit. This is your captain signing off for